From the time that he was a young boy, Mark Twain always wanted to pilot a steamboat up and down the mighty Mississippi River. In his book, Life on the Mississippi, he writes about this desire. He ran away from his home in Hannibal, Missouri, and he boarded a steamboat in Cincinnati. And on the New Orleans-bound Paul Jones, Twain promised $500 after he graduated from school to Mr. Bixby, who was the pilot, if only he would mentor him. And even though he painstakingly mapped the entire length of the river with all of its bends and sandbars and islands and towns, Twain just could not retain the knowledge. So he was frustrated, and he decided to quit, claiming, "I haven't got brains enough to be a pilot, and if I had, I wouldn't have the strength to carry them around unless I went on crutches." But the wise Mr. Bixby saw something in Twain, and with his help, the future captain and author was able to read the river. Twain later stated that if he had known how difficult it would be to learn and traverse the almost 1,300 miles of river, he would not have had the courage to begin. Well, none of us, when we are gifted with life by our parents, have any idea of the challenges that await us. And I'm sure that many of us at times have felt what Mark Twain felt and said either quietly or out loud, "If only I had known." We might not have had the courage to leave the womb if only we had known what it is like to traverse the challenges of life. But obviously, we didn't know and we had no choice. What we do know is that life takes courage, and the choice we do have is to find that courage and to find that strength that we all need. This is what Pentecost is all about. I am sure that the apostles said to one another after Good Friday, "If only we had known what we were in for with this man, the suffering, the loss, then the great joy of resurrection, and then all the persecutions. When does it end?" But just as they were feeling abandoned, something profound happened. They were given the Spirit as their mentor. Jesus did not abandon them. He left them with the power of the Spirit, and in the Spirit they found their courage. So as Mr. Bixby mentored Mark Twain, the Spirit of God mentors us and gives us the courage to meet all the challenges that life offers to us. If only I knew. What a great phrase. How many have said that? If only I knew the challenges of parenting. If only I knew the challenges of marriage. If only I knew the challenges of this particular job, the challenges of being a single parent, a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, a secretary, a workman, the challenges of dealing with the public in any profession. 38 years ago, if only I had known the challenges the church would face. If only I knew. Well, we never know what awaits us in life, and that is why it is so important that we get ourselves grounded in the Spirit of God and not give up when the times get rough. Pope Francis recently told us that the Spirit is constantly at work in our world, speaking to our hearts, speaking to all of life's experiences. And he gives us a challenge in this homily on the Spirit. He says to each one of us, Do not close the doors to the Spirit. We give up on life if we close the doors to the Spirit. Just a couple of weeks ago, the world lost a great author and poet and civil rights activist when Maya Angelou died at her home in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. If anyone was mentored by the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, it was certainly her, especially the gift of fortitude, of courage, but also steadfastness and truth. In 1969, she wrote her autobiography entitled, "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings." It's a coming-of-age story about finding the courage to overcome racism and abuse. She was abused as a child and was unable to speak for a number of years. The central image throughout her autobiography is the metaphor of a bird struggling to escape its cage. But even in a cage, the struggling bird is able to sing. Elsie Granderson, a senior writer for ESPN and a lecturer at Northwestern University, wrote a piece about Maya Angelou for CNN. He wrote, "I never had the chance to meet her, but she's been in my life all along. In some of my darkest moments, her prose lit a candle. When I felt alone, her words were my company. Words like, 'You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise.' Or words like, 'History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if we face it with courage, it need not be lived again.'" And the country singer Martina McBride said of Maya, "She was so giving of her spirit." You see, this is what Pentecost is all about. This is the challenge of Pentecost, that the Spirit is available to each one of us, and the Spirit is in each one of us to empower others with courage and strength not to give up. Maya Angelou found the courage within her, the courage of the Spirit, and she empowered thousands and thousands of people. At a 1998 human rights fundraiser campaign, she stated this: "All of us are caged birds, have been and will be again, caged by somebody else's ignorance, caged because of someone else's small-mindedness, caged because of someone else's fear, hate, and sometimes caged by our own lack of courage." She did not allow herself to be caged, though. Mark Twain was caged by his horrible lack of self-esteem and fear. He felt what so many of us humans feel: "If only I had known." But like the apostles, he was able to get beyond that fear and face the demanding tasks of life. He found a mentor. Maya Angelou was caged by horrible abuse and racism, but she was able to live life to the fullest while she fought all that tried to put her in a cage. Just consider the very last words that Maya Angelou wrote. She wrote this: "Listen to yourself, and in that quietude, you might hear the voice of God." Again, this is what Pentecost is about. Hearing the voice of God, giving us courage to deal with the challenges of life and empower others to do the same. Francis challenged us not to close the doors to the Spirit, and Maya Angelou challenged us to hear the voice of God.